This episode was sponsored by Property, the leading real estate agent for all real estate transactions with a comprehensive ecosystem. They combine highly trained experts with the latest technologies on an intelligent platform to provide clients, brokers, and service partners with risk-free, flexible, and simplified services. Learn more at property.com. That's property with an I.com. I was actually very positively surprised when I signed up, and then I saw, like, at the end of a month, your interest credit statement. I was like, what? You pay me interest rate?
Yeah, we pay our customers.
It's insane.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. If you enjoy listening to our show, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a rating. And now, here's your host, Silvan.
Michael, a very well welcome to the Swisspreneur podcast. It's a pleasure to have you as a guest today.
Silvan, thanks for having me here. Pleasure to be here.
You are the CEO at Amnis. It's a truly global payment platform. I'm a user myself and a big enthusiast, so I'm very happy to have you here today. Before we talk about what you guys actually do, I want to focus on the problem a little bit. You've spent over a decade in the finance world and eventually then decided to start your own company, Amnis. What problem were you seeing in the traditional banking that you said, there's something that I want to solve, that I can do better with my own company?
Good question, Silvan. After spending more than a decade in the treasury space, my co-founders and I identified this major gap in the payments market. Mid-sized companies are completely underserved and overcharged when it comes to international transactions. Let me explain this. If you look at the market, large global enterprises have access to solutions of large global transaction banks. Think about Citigroup or JP Morgan. On the other hand, micropreneurs, they first of all have a simpler business model, but also they have access to the simplicity of neobanks such as Revolut, Konto, Wise. And in between, no one serves them. So we started building a platform to level this playing field, automated workflows and lower transaction costs.
And I imagine when you started out there, many of the banks, they use very, very old software. I still hear that from people actually working in banks, that this is a big challenge for them. Was that also a challenge for you to get started? Because in one way or the other, I imagine you do have to interact with these old systems, but you're a modern tech startup. How did that work?
Yeah, this was a huge challenge. Connectivity to legacy systems, this is horrible sometimes. I can say that Amnis had kind of an unfair advantage in the sense of we were built cloud native and API first. Yeah. So traditional players, I do see their issue. If you have 30 years old systems or even more, at the end, we solved a lot, but there, for some parts, you need to rely on legacy players to just connect to the systems. Yeah. I have a good example. We connected to the Swiss National Bank ourselves. Obviously, we also use a provider, but most part of the connection we did ourselves. And now this year, SIC Instant is the big topic in Switzerland. I learned from a lot of banks, everything needs to be instant. This is horrible for compliance for everyone. Yeah. I absolutely see their point, but our system was built instant. So for us, it's just, okay, if you need to adapt the rail, but at the end of the day, it's not a major project. So there, we really have an advantage.
You were ahead of the time in that sense.
Yeah, and then also special is, we not only built the new user experience, for us it was also about building a core banking system. Mm-hmm. A lot of users do not know about that, but at the end of the day, we built one software consisting of a core banking solution and all the client-facing apps. And this allows us to scale quite fast and have this agility to add additional application layers.
So you can basically I think you added cards then later down the road, right? So now you can also simply just deploy card payments.
Yeah.
What else can you offer with that solid foundation that you've built?
Yeah, we are currently looking also at acquiring and also their multi-currency acquiring to add possibilities to accept online payments in various currencies and directly settle it in an Amnis wallet.
Nice.
But also think about all the AI topics that are currently on top of mind for everyone. Also there, if you have this solid foundation, you can just elaborate where it makes most sense to add some AI-powered features.
And talking about AI, you already mentioned on your website that you use AI today.
Yeah.
Where and how do you use AI? Because banking, it sounds, okay, this is just the old boring stuff, but where does AI come into play there?
Yeah, good question. I mean, if you look at the back-end systems, there are a lot of traditional banks as well as fintechs use AI. Think about transaction monitoring to detect patterns in card or payment transactions. Yeah. Then also customer success. This is very traditional. Customer success, you have this opportunity to automate some chats with AI. But we are currently looking at completely different stuff. In addition to this, one thing that we just add, I think this month in June, is the whole payment capturing process. This is really old stuff, payment capturing. Usually for domestic payments, you have QR codes. Mm-hmm. If you pay abroad, you either get a paper-based invoice or a PDF or an email or something like this. And someone really enters a payment manually. And so to solve this, we call it AI Doc2Pay. I mean, at the end, it's AI-powered data extraction. It's the first step to get all the data. So you have your payment, then trigger the sign-off process, a human in the loop. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we can even pre-account everything so that the accounting is also done. And then it's just about connectivity for the last mile to get everything in the system. Very detailed now, sorry.
No, but I imagine I receive an invoice, right? And I have maybe a forwarding system. Yeah. From that email inbox, it gets directly to the Amnis inbox. And then you already set up the payment and you just let me approve it without having to manually type stuff.
That's the point.
Wow, I love that. And then the accounting part will be the logical next step, that you could also do the accounting for these companies to a certain degree, right?
Yeah, we already built in the pre-accounting based on the paper or PDF that you forward or upload in bulk. Yeah. So you already see, this is supplier payment to bank or whatever. And the next step is then just to connect the accounting system. But this is a constant challenge because there are thousands of accounting systems out there in Europe. Yeah. And I mean, in Switzerland, in my opinion, we do not have a clear standard as a count and pain, obviously. But in Europe, you at least with PSD2 have some account information standards where you can count on. But it's still a challenge.
But then in that case, you would focus on the connection and not of building your own accounting software on top of Amnis.
Some accounting software providers asked me about this.
Okay.
But I mean, for me, this is would be a whole new business. It's a completely different story. But everything from payment capturing until the pre-accounting, so even just the step before it is in the accounting system, it's easily to automate. And I mean, you asked me about the traditional banks before. And this is also the point with fintech or with Amnis. I mean, we try to think, or not only we try, we do think in workflows. So one thing is to offer the financial instrument, a payment. The other one is, hey, someone needs to enter the payment. At the end of the workflow, it needs to go to the accounting system. And there we can fix a lot in the current system landscape.
There are a lot of inefficiencies. I see them myself day in, day out, and it always frustrates me to lose time with these admin things when I could be out there either relaxing or closing new deals.
Yeah, focus on your business instead of the banking.
When we then talk about this, there's also a geographical component to it, right? Because, of course, there is a certain problem to solve. You are a Swiss startup. You're based here in Switzerland with a strong Liechtenstein connection. And at the same time, Switzerland is a pretty small market. So you also decided to expand abroad. Tell us a bit more about that. Was that sort of a necessity because the Swiss market is just too small?
The Swiss market in the B2B business or in the SME market is kind of small. With 600,000 SMEs, I mean, it's something, but Europe has 22 million. So we decided to get access to Europe, and you mentioned Liechtenstein. That's why we were the first payment institution based in Liechtenstein. We are fully regulated across Europe and play by the same rules as bank do. We can do everything. We can open national bank accounts. By the way, we also have a Swiss national bank account to issue IBANs. We can issue cards and a lot of additional topics. And lending we don't do, and we are also not allowed to do. Yeah. But this is okay. Then you have a lean payment factory or bank even, and this allows us to scale fast.
How do I have to imagine that? Because often we also talk to the B2C fintechs like Neon, of course. Yep. And often you have a front end, what the customer sees and the brand of Neon, but in the back end, everything is done by a partner bank because they said from a regulatory perspective, we don't want to go there. This takes years and we don't want to be a bank, but we just want to be a better front end to a bank. Your setup sounds, it's a bit different. You took this extra mile to become regulated, etc., and basically become a bank yourself. Is that the right way to look at it?
In my opinion, it is the right way to look at it. If you want to build a scalable platform at some point, if you always rely on partners, it will be difficult and even more expensive. Yeah. So that's why we decided to go with an own license. And the PI or EMI license in Europe is in the payment space the go-to license, or you are even a bank or a payment institution. And we obviously decided for the payment institution to have the full flexibility. But I can understand the other decision. So building a better user experience is kind of the most important step, and in the retail even more than in the B2B space. Yeah. Because there you can win. On the other hand, you win the first mile, but then at the end, you still rely on partners, and this makes it very difficult.
That's true. Long term, it's a strategic disadvantage, I imagine.
Yeah.
But your process of really getting regulated yourself, I imagine that's quite a big upfront investment of not only money, but also time and work to put into there. Tell us a bit more about this regulatory process, because it's always like this big beast. And how do you tame it as a small and young startup, basically?
Yeah, it is a big beast. It is. You are talking to regulators, and the sense of urgency is kind of different if you're a startup or a scale-up. It took us, I would say, around 1.5 years to get the payment institution license. We learned a lot during these 1.5 years, so it brought also some advantages. And at the same time, we were still regulated in Switzerland in a lower regulatory scheme. Mm-hmm. And this enabled us to also scale the Swiss business. So it was like we scale the Swiss business, get the license for Europe, and then do everything. So it was kind of okay, but very, very time consuming. And now as soon as you have this European license, then it's just a passporting process to start in a new country. And this is amazing. So if you start in Denmark, which is currently on the roadmap, you just ask the regulators there, the regulatory authority there, for approval, or it's even a notification. And 1 month later, you can start doing business there. And
so it's a bit more like copy-paste.
Yeah.
Well, that's a huge advantage to then expand across Europe. And why was Europe the right market for you to choose from and not the US, for example?
At this stage, we had a lot of Swissness in the company, in the startup. So Europe was the best next step. Yeah. Currently, we are looking at additional regions. On the other hand, Europe is still a huge market, and we have our core markets like Czech Republic, Austria, Germany, Switzerland, Benelux, and we are adding Nordics now, looking at Poland, do some market tests in the UK. So you still have a lot of room to grow in Europe. United States could be a next step with a next financing round, because if you look at the United States, you have a lot of payment rails to Europe. So we have a lot of companies in Europe that pay to the US.
And vice versa. Yeah.
And so you can grow through the suppliers of your own customers, which is quite an amazing go-to-market strategy.
I love that. It's sort of back in the days when we got an email from Hotmail. It was like, hey, I sent this by Hotmail and people signed up. You have a similar viral loop that you can build into your payment process.
Yeah. We call it payment tracking.
I love that. That's very nice.
That's a good one.
End of month accounting got you ready to smash your laptop into a million pieces? Meet Infinity.Swiss. Get through your invoices and receipts twice as fast with AI accounting that's surprisingly satisfying. We actually use Infinity.Swiss ourselves here at Swisspreneur, and we absolutely love it. Check out their special offer for founders at infinity.swiss/Swisspreneur. Who are your typical customers? Is it really the SME that has maybe international suppliers or customers and therefore needs different currencies to work with? Or what is the typical use case that you work with?
Yeah, I mean, our ICP ideal customer profile is an SME with 10 to 500 employees with international business activities. Could be an exporter, importer. We have customers across industries. You mentioned at the beginning that you are also an Amnis customers. We are adding application layers every quarter or half a year. And SMEs do usually adopt accounts receivable, currency management, and cards and accounts payable. And if I look at it, the large enterprise segment is also adopting more and more services from Amnis. So we have a few huge clients in the card space, because the Amnis card is one of the, in my opinion, is the single one that can settle in any currency. Yeah. You can use the card program locally in different jurisdictions, 22. So if you're an international company or even a large one, this helps you to save a lot of money.
And what is your business model behind all of this? Because I know you do offer subscriptions, but you also have a free tier.
Yep.
And within that free tier, I imagine you still want to make money with that customer, because otherwise you would lose money. How do you make money as Amnis?
Yeah. I mean, as mentioned, we are kind of the bank or the payment institution behind it. So we are the card issuer, and we have interchange fees on card payments. This is regulated by MasterCard. You get X% of the card volume from the merchant. So if you pay your Google ads with Amnis card, we get something from Google. This is quite an interesting part of it, but it's still small compared to the traditional business that we do. Then we have a take rate on the FX. I mean, we have very low markups, but if you have a few billion volume, it still amounts to a good revenue. So our revenue model is based on take rate on FX, subscriptions, card interchange. And then we also, you might not realize it, but we also forward interest on foreign currency accounts.
True.
And there we have an operational margin. So a part of this interest that we get from the ECB or other national banks stays at Amnis.
I wanted to ask, because you don't offer lending, you said before, how you get this interest rate, but now it makes sense. The national banks pay that to you. Is this called like the overnight rate, or how is that called?
Yeah, we get overnight minus a fee because it's a safeguarded environment. We completely mitigate credit risk for our customers. And this has quite high costs to mitigate it. So this structure, but it's ECB or Bank of England or Fed minus something. And then from the rest, we forward 2/3 to our clients.
Nice. I was actually very positively surprised when I signed up, and then I saw, like, at the end of a month, your interest credit statement. I was like, what? You pay me interest rate?
Yeah, we pay our customers.
It's insane. Yeah, that was a very nice surprise. And everyone makes money in that equation.
Yeah, and we did this because not a single bank in Europe does pay interest on foreign currency accounts. Usually Swiss banks pay on Swiss francs, European banks on euro. Our clientele has various currencies, so we thought, hey, we need to fix this. And so we found this way with safeguarded client funds and forwarded.
That's really cool. That was definitely a nice surprise as a user. But at the same time, I also imagine there is competition out there, right? There are other fintechs that try to go from B2C also to B2B and sort of probably compete with you on the customer segment. So two questions on that front. A, how do you differentiate between what you can offer and what these other fintechs offers? And B, how do you acquire your customers? What is your marketing strategy despite the viral loop that we briefly touched upon?
I would say in 90% of cases, our competitor is a traditional bank. So we basically compete with traditional banks. Then you mentioned retail neobanks that also go into the B2B segment. They also do an amazing job, in my opinion. But there, the main difference is our solution is custom built for SMEs. So think about stuff like pain files or Kant. If you come from retail, you do not offer this. And for the small companies or for the micropreneurs, this is completely fine. But if you have 500 payments at the end of the month, this is not a solution for you.
Right.
One can say they can fix this. However, we, as mentioned, we think in workflows, we fix already the next steps to get us ahead of this competition. Then the second question was about the go-to-market. Go-to-market, I mean, we do partnerships. We have a lot of partners. We even partner with banks. So a few banks refer clients to Amnis.
Oh, interesting.
Because, we do a good job in international business activities. Yeah. So we are the perfect add-on to their local banking solution, which is kind of cool for us.
How does that then work? Like, do I work through the interface of that local bank and I'm sort of connected to you, or I still have like an Amnis account?
Yeah, you get an Amnis account.
Okay.
So this is also interesting for us to upsell and cross-sell the solution. Then accounting systems. We love to partner with accounting systems because I do believe in an integrated finance world to bridge between banking and accounting system. We recently had this Bexio project in Switzerland as an example. Shall I elaborate on this one?
Yeah, sure. I want to talk about that because you have the partnership with Bexio, but you also raised a Series B round led by Swisscom Ventures.
Yeah.
And there I just wonder how these two things, the partnership with Bexio and the new funding coming in, help you now to scale to bigger and better things.
Yeah. I mean, these are two different things. First, the Bexio, I mean, this is for us, it was like a lighthouse project in Switzerland because we could enable their 80,000 SMBs to get access to a Bexio branded card that directly settles in the accounting system. So if you are at the point of sale and pay your coffee, it's already booked. If you upload a receipt through the Amnis app, it's already in Bexio. And this is a case that has a lot of potential to scale. And we are looking at similar partnerships also abroad in Austria, Germany, Denmark. And I do think this is a good bridge to go to market because this is also part of our go-to-market strategy. Then the Swisscom partnership, I mean, this was our last financing round. Swisscom was lead investor in this 10 million round. I'm really positively not surprised, but I'm pretty convinced that this partnership will help us a lot also in the future to scale, not only about the money, but also about the services they offer. And in addition to this, what people often underestimate, brand reputation. As a B2B fintech, to be honest, you almost have no brand reputation. If you're a retail fintech, you get your brand out there. In B2B, I mean, we have 4,000 SME or company customers. This is not a lot if you have 22 million companies in Europe. So if you get an investor that also has a strong brand, this really helps.
I still see every now and then people ask about bank accounts or international fees in our Slack community that we run with Swisspreneur. And there every time Amnis gets mentioned. So at least in our small startup space, you do have a good brand recognition. People are really happy. Like, it's really great to hear that.
Really amazing. I think I need to hire a community manager.
Probably. So you raised 10 million in your latest round. That is a lot of money. And from what I understand with you, for the go-to-market, you focus on partnerships. So you don't seem to have a very expensive sales team.
I need to correct this a bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would say 1/3 is product-led of our new clients. So around more than 30%. with payment tracking, referral program, and different initiatives. Yeah. Then about 1/3 is partnerships, and 1/3 is from outbound sales.
Okay.
And there we try to distinguish between enterprise and SME, go to market highly automated and standardized for the SME sales part. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, we have the challenge that we also serve more and more enterprise customers. And there we have a very custom sales approach and also customized pricing.
Got it.
So this is kind of a growing pain for a scale-up. It's amazing that enterprises adopt our solution, but at the same time, you need to think it end-to-end, from the website to the sales process to the KPI reporting, financials. Quite challenging, but makes a lot of fun.
So you do have an expensive sales force.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those 10 million we heard will also be used, of course, to expand geographically beyond the markets that you're already active in. And I wonder, with your experience, you expanded to what you said, like Germany, Czech Republic, Austria, etc. Denmark is on the roadmap. What has been the most difficult thing of still expanding and sort of landing in different markets compared to Switzerland? You have the regulatory framework, but there are still many differences, like the language, probably also the culture. What has been the most difficult to deal with while expanding?
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows that you need to localize, so you are well prepared if you go to a new market. But if you're there, you will learn, this localization, this is not, it's not all about this, because every single country had its own banking and cultural complexities. So I have a good example, the Czech Republic. We are, meanwhile, quite successful in the Czech Republic. Mm-hmm. But when we started, we learned, hey, this market is instant since years. So our systems were instant, but you need to find the right partners in the local market to also offer instant information and notification to the customers. Yeah. So we won a lot of customers in the Czech Republic, but they were not happy because the Amnis, it took 24 hours to credit money and not 1 second. So we really worked, I think, 3 or 4 quarters on this to sort it out. So these small things that you underestimate can break you.
Yeah. I imagine someone then signing up, they will be disappointed, then they just stop using you.
Yeah.
How do you come back from that? Because 3 to 4 quarters, it's still a long time.
It was way too long, yeah. But I mean, it was not possible to have direct access to the Czech National Bank. This would have taken even more time.
No.
So we needed to find partners. We lost quite a lot of customers in these first quarters and then won them back again, or even won new customers. And then you also start to adapt the verticals. So we are now quite big in the travel industry in the Czech Republic because they have an own currency. All the Czech people book abroad in euro or in even US dollar. And we have virtual cards, we have global payments, and Czech Republic, to stay with this example, is about 2.5 times the size of Switzerland.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Crazy. And I also wonder how you do it operationally, like expanding to a new market is also a very cost intense thing, or at least can be. Yeah. Do you always hire local people to then also tackle the market there with local sales approaches, speaking the same language, etc.? Or how do you have to envision that?
I mean, one thing is the technical infrastructure. This is easily solved. If you're cloud native, translation and everything, it's 2-3 days. So theoretically, one can start in a new market from a technical point of view in 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks in the market.
But the real challenge is really finding the right talents in the local market because, as mentioned, these cultural differences, you need local people that understand how the local market works and how the local prospects think to adapt the messaging. We always needed to adapt our core messaging to the local markets. Yeah. So in one market, it's all about saving money. In other markets, hey, we don't care. It's about digitalization. And we have our all-in-one approach. So we needed to adapt. And at the organization, if you look at the organization, we have local country managers in each market and local team that supports him to get access.
How big are these teams usually in the local market?
Yeah, pretty small.
Yeah.
So in the Dutch market for Benelux, we are 4.
Okay.
Czech Republic, in the sales and account management team, only 3 people, but 10 for compliance and customer support. They also support our team in Switzerland and Austria.
Okay.
So Austria, we are 4. So most people are still in the Liechtenstein office and Swiss office.
Makes sense. Hey, did you know that Swisspreneur just published a book? That's right. We've spent the past year writing Swiss Startups, a compact view of some of the most amazing startup journeys in Switzerland, from scrappy beginnings to world domination. If you love listening to our podcast, then this is about to become your new favorite book. Find it now in all major bookstores or click the link in the show notes to order your copy from Helvetic today. How has your role as a founder changed over all these expansion times? Because I imagine starting out in Switzerland, having probably a smaller team, and now working in multi-countries, continuing to expand, that also means a lot of changes for your role as a founder and CEO, basically.
Definitely. Not only for me, for the whole leadership team and the co-founders. Yeah, I mean, with every growth cycle, you have new challenges. So building a company from 0 to 1 million is one thing, and then you go to 2 million and at some point to 5 million, then you have a Series B, and the next step should be 20 million annual recurring revenue. Yes. So you always need to adapt. I mean, at the beginning, I even learned how to code to build kind of an MVP of our solution that worked for 2 years. And now it's more about finding or cultivating talent and finding the right approaches and strategies to expand and to improve the products.
It's also very different, right? In the beginning, it's more about getting the product done and shipped and acquiring users. And now it's probably more money, more customers, more employees involved, also more pressure, I imagine. Which of these two phases was or is more fun to you? The scale-up phase, as you are in now, or the early days where you sort of hack things together, but you probably move even faster than already the fast pace you have now?
Yeah, I mean, I love the first phase because your own impact is really fast. Yeah. But now this challenge is also quite a lot of fun. I mean, as Ray Dalio, I think, said, building the machine that builds the machine. And currently at Amnis, it's all about this, finding the right talents that improve the go-to-market or improve the product or AI. We now have students working on Gen AI projects. And this is also quite amazing to see how this all evolves.
Absolutely. And with all that, money, like 10 million, you said, from the Series B, that's really a big number. How do you keep your sanity with all the growth and the higher revenues and higher funding numbers?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this money is on the company account. So.
Of course, but you're still responsible for it, right?
Sure. Honestly, do not think about it a lot. For me, it's just a bigger number than 5 years ago. And so the growth rates is the more important the KPI to manage.
Yeah. So, that makes sense.
Yes,
you focus on the next task.
Yeah.
Upward and onward, as they say.
Focus on execution and don't think a lot about everything else in strategy and execution.
And if we look a bit into the future, I'm sure you have big plans with Amnis. And I think recently Stripe, for example, made a big announcement that there is really a lot of movement in that space. I think they even launched their own stable coin. They want to allow peer-to-peer payment, something that you already do for quite some time, I think. Yep. So where do you want to take this? What is sort of your ultimate vision where Amnis can be in 5 to 10 years?
10 years is quite long, but if I look at the next 5 years, the ultimate goal is to become the go-to platform for businesses with international banking activities. Yep. And then I mean, what we are basically doing is we are adding an application layer by application layer. So most competitors, I mean, Stripe is not a competitor. This is a monster. They are huge. But all of them focus on one niche or one part of the payment process. And we want to become the player that has the whole workflow and different application layers. Yeah. I mean the stablecoin topic. This is more a banking or a infrastructure topic. I think this is very, very interesting also in the future. We also looked at it various times. We were even, by the way, the first company in Switzerland that was a member of Ripple 5 years ago, but we stopped it. Yeah. The main challenge that I do see in the B2B world is that if you do high value payment, you need an off-ramping partner in the local market with a good credit reputation. And this is still kind of difficult. Yeah. So we looked at it 2 months ago for the last time. We didn't find a good solution. However, creating a stablecoin sandwich to on-ramp in one region and off-ramp in another region, this makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. So if someone has an idea how to solve the off-ramping, happy to discuss.
Maybe just for the listeners who might not be that familiar, can you explain quickly what on-ramp and off-ramp are?
Yeah, good one. On-ramp is if you sell fiat currency to buy the stablecoin in one jurisdiction, then you send the stablecoin to the other jurisdiction. And then in the other jurisdictions, for example, in Mexico, you need a partner to sell this stablecoin, maybe USDC, and convert it into fiat. And then you need to send fiat to the recipient. So that's why I called it the stablecoin sandwich. It really makes sense to evaluate this, but we couldn't fix it at the moment to find the right setup.
Yeah, and the trust that you mentioned, but I assume also liquidity are key to make that work. Otherwise, you have a stable coin and you cannot get out of it.
That's the point, yeah. I mean, I think Citigroup, if I remember right, did an in-house stable coin. Because if you are active in that many countries, so you just use the stable coin to transfer money between your own entities, and then on and off ramping is solved.
Yeah. That's easier for a bank with all these locations. I see. Yeah. Now, to wrap up the conversation today, Michael, I also have some rapid fire questions for you. I'm just going to fire right away. What does money mean to you?
At the end, everyone needs money to live, so freedom. But you are asking a founder, so money was always limited. And at the end, for me, it was building Amnis was more about shaping something. Not about money. Of course, you need a sustainable revenue model, and then the money part solves itself.
What was the hardest leadership lesson that you've learned while scaling Amnis?
Cultivating talent. You need to start as early as possible. I mean, everyone knows and everyone says the team is the most important asset. I also think so. However, due to time constraints and liquidity constraints in your growth cycles, it's quite tough to cultivate enough talents for the next cycle. And this was always from funding round to funding round a topic.
Yeah, it's always delayed. That's the challenging part.
You need to do it before and not delayed. But on the other hand, you have constraints.
Of course.
So cultivating talent and finding the right talent needs to be a leadership team job.
And what's one piece of advice that you'd give to a founder that is now expanding across borders or just outside of Switzerland?
Use Amnis for your local accounts abroad. No, just kidding. As mentioned before, localize, however, adapt even quicker.
Yeah, I love that. And what's a fintech buzzword that you think is completely hyped and overrated?
Currently, if you read through the social media, I mean, agentic AI. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I do believe in an AI-powered future and also agentic AI. However, if your core business model does not add value, then agentic AI won't fix it. And the other thing is, a lot of people talk about agentic AI, but just automate a workflow. So it's not,
It's a bit more, hype than real business value in many cases. And we talked about embedded finance. That's also sort of a trend, so to speak. Is it a game changer in the finance industry, or is it just another layer of complexity?
For sure, a game changer. If you look at it, embedded finance brings every platform closer to the real business need. or to the point where the financial service is needed. So I really do believe in embedded finance. We also had several projects. Last week, we issued for an insurance company in Austria virtual cards to settle claims. This is
that's cool.
Embedded finance at its best, because it's a really cool case also for us. Or for a mobility provider, we have cards outstanding. And this Bexia example at some point is also an embedded finance case. Then also the user side, our user can connect their own application via API to Amnis. So in this sense, this is also, or at least open banking or embedded finance.
And the last question, based on everything that we've heard now, if you could choose, you will have to return the money of your investors at one point, right? Trade sale or IPO?
IPO.
That's cool. I love that. We need more founders striving for IPOs here in Switzerland.
Thanks, Silvan.
That's amazing. Michael, it was a pleasure having you here. Lots of success, all the best, and keep crushing it as you already do with your team. Thank you for stopping by today.
Thanks a lot, Silvan. It was a pleasure.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, you can support us by rating our show on Apple Podcasts. This way, we can reach an ever-growing number of aspiring entrepreneurs.